Live from Zeppo's, alongside Cougar head coach Mike Leach, here's the voice of the Cougars, Matt Chazanow.
It is that time of the week. Great to be with you. Packed house. We've got a home game, as always, standing room only here at Zeppo's, and Coach Leach is en route from the practice field. Tough one in Tempe. That one came right down to that last drive there, and a hard-fought game between two really good ball clubs here in the Pac-12. A ball game that I'll talk to Coach about that came down once again to literally to blades of grass on a fumble that hit someone's cleat when he was out of bounds, and it comes down to that margin sometimes here in the Pac-12. A 38-34 final. Cougars kick a field goal with about 2 minutes left. Blake Mazza has been fantastic this year. He has had 50 and 51-yard field goals for career longs and career ties, and he hit that one there and was consistent. He hasn't missed, and so it comes down to the defense, that final stretch, and Jaden Daniels has been excellent. He did that against Michigan State in East Lansing, and he does it to the Cougs in Tempe, and we'll talk to Coach all about it. But that right away, Travell Harris catches that spinning touchdown where he's backpedaling in the end zone for a 35-yard pass from Anthony Gordon. Cougs are up 10-0 after the first quarter. Everyone was wondering, what was the defense going to be like with Rock Bellantoni in the booth and with Darcel McBath on the field? And the first quarter, they came out and played as well as they played all year. They had great defensive effort, fantastic energy, and a credit to Arizona State for coming in there late and getting that victory late with that late Daniels run down the middle in a really tight ball game. We will relive it here briefly. I just got word Coach Leach is en route from that Thursday night practice field. Great to be back with everybody here at Zeppo's. It's homecoming weekend here for the Colorado game. Cougs and Buffaloes. Colorado comes into this one 3-3 overall, 1-2 in the pack. And so Washington State and Colorado each at 3-3. We'll get to it Saturday at 4 o'clock. We'll relive a little bit of the game in Tempe. We'll take a break and come back with Coach Leach.
Cougs, Sun Devils.
Snap back to Anthony Gordon, 1st and 10. Has time in the pocket, goes deep left side of the end zone. Leaping grab, touchdown, backpedaling, Travell Harris. It's 6-0 Cougs, first drive of the ball game. Shotgun set, Daniels takes a chest high snap, blitz is picked up, pocket collapses, rolls out to the right, and he is crushed and smothered by Travion Brown and Will Rogers. The snap is good, the hold is down. Mazza's right leg through it, end over end, high enough, long enough, and good. And Washington State leads Arizona State 10-0. Snap back, shotgun Gordon. He will throw it. Toss to the right. Leaping grab, wide open, touchdown. Des Patman sneaks behind the defense and hauls another one in for 6. And it's 16-7. Washington State leads with 8 minutes and 15 seconds left in the half. Takes the snap, tosses, slant right, touchdown. Aesop Winston, and it's an extra point pending to tie this ball game. A 3-yard hookup and a demonstrative Anthony Gordon with a big fist pump after he finds his favorite target, Aesop Winston, for his 9th touchdown this year. Left-handed give, Borghi spins his way in, spinning for the touchdown. Borghi works his way, pirouetting in, and it's back-to-back touchdowns for the Cougs. They take a 30-24 third quarter lead. 10 seconds left on the clock. Borghi a 2-yard plunge. Snap back to Daniels, play fake, tosses left. Ayuk with the grab, gets behind Strong, hops his way into the end zone near side of the field. With 11:19 left, fourth quarter. What a ball game it's been, back and forth. Tied once again as the extra point is true. Snap is good, the hold is down. Mazza's kick this time, end over end, is good. And Washington State leads it 34-31. Blake Mazza blasts it through. He's 3 for 3. Then with 2.5 minutes left in Tempe, the Cougs are on top at the 18th ranked Sun Devils. 2nd and 2 at the Cougs 17. Snap back, Daniel steps up. Watch out, you said it, Alex. He tucks and runs to the 5, leaps up into the air, has a touchdown, sprinting down the hashes with 34 seconds left. And Arizona State takes a 37-34 lead. You've been saying all day, his legs could make the difference. Snap back Gordon. Oh, he's under pressure. He needs to get rid of it. Throws it downfield, and it hits the grass. Incomplete, and that's the ball game. And Arizona State wins the game. It is 38-34 the final.
More from Zeppo's after this on Interact with the show. Give us a call on the bookie call-in line at 866-COOG-TALK, 1-866-268-4825. Live from Zeppo's alongside Cougar head coach Mike Leach. Here's Matt Chazanow.
Back here live at Zeppo's. It is that time of the week. It's the coach's show here. Coach Leach is en route from the practice field in Pullman. Thursday night football. Cougs take on Colorado, a couple of 3-3 ball clubs. Colorado just lost to Oregon in a convincing ball game. It was 45-3. They got blown out, and it was a little bit of a head-scratcher, to be honest. They just played Arizona in a really close game. It was 35-30, and they beat Arizona State, actually, in Tempe, did Colorado, 34-31. So they just won in Tempe, and then they lost to Arizona in a very tight one, and then Oregon had a substantial margin over the Buffaloes. So they've lost two straight. They won one of their last four games. Colorado, 4 games ago now, lost to Air Force in overtime. That's not a national power this year, but the Falcons are pretty darn good. Air Force this year is actually all the Army, Navy, and Air Force are actually all pretty darn good right now. The academies are. Air Force won 30-23 in overtime and actually stopped Colorado on downs late. The Buffaloes started this year with a rivalry win and a convincing one over Colorado State. They won 52-31, and then they beat Nebraska. You may remember that's an old Big 12 rivalry renewed, now a Pac-12 Big 10 matchup. But they beat Nebraska in overtime. They actually played back-to-back overtime games, which in and of itself is a rarity. They beat Nebraska 34-31 in OT. One of the confusing parts of the year for Colorado, you may remember last year, the game wasn't really close. Washington State blasted Colorado last year in a really convincing game. And just coming off of injury last year, was widely regarded as maybe the best wide receiver in the Pac-12 nobody was talking about, and that's Laviska Shenault. He's back now this year. He's not their leading wide receiver this year. Tony Brown is their leading receiver by a pretty decent margin. Brown has 34 receptions and 460 yards. For context here, Shenault 21 catches for 300 yards. That's a pretty decent gap, a fairly sizable disparity. Brown has 4 touchdowns. Shenault has 2. Chenault's one of the best receivers in the country. He is really good and had a big game against the Cougs last year, albeit it was a fairly wide margin. I don't know if Coach Leach will talk to him. I don't know if he knows Mel Tucker, first-year head coach for Colorado. He's a first-year head coach for his whole career now here in Boulder. He had spent 10 years in the NFL as an assistant. He was a defensive coordinator in Jacksonville. He was a defensive coordinator in Cleveland for the Browns. And then he was a longtime assistant, somewhat like Herm Edwards, although not a head coach. So kind of back-to-back NFL coaches. But he also was an assistant in the SEC for 5 years and the Big Ten for 4 years. An amazing biography in terms of the places Mel Tucker has been. Most recently, he was at Georgia in Athens with the Bulldogs. He was there for 3 years. He was their defensive coordinator. They've been so good. They did lose to South Carolina, which was a surprising upset, but he's been so good. He actually played for Wisconsin. He was in Barry Alvarez's first recruiting class in Wisconsin. I don't know if he and Coach Leach have ever crossed paths before. Coach said he had crossed paths a little bit with Herm Edwards in the past in coaching conventions where they kind of describe new rules and whatnot. He said some of those meetings take forever, and he and Herm Edwards had kind of had a chance to cross paths there. But I don't know that Coach and Mel Tucker really would have had a natural moment where they would have crossed over back and forth. Meanwhile, on the offensive side of things, Anthony Gordon nearly threw for 500 yards in Tempe. He has 2,600 passing yards now, completing 71% of his passes, 25 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He has been phenomenal. Anthony Gordon, really, really good. 211 completions, 296 attempts, 300 attempts. He's been really, really good, and he has distributed it around, and maybe Coach Leach will know, maybe he will not divulge such information. Possibly Brandon Arconado comes back this week. That would be a welcome sight for everybody. He had 25 catches in just a few games, did Arconado, and has missed some time since, officially noted as a graduate student here, as a redshirt senior, if you will. As Coach Leach enters Zeppo's here on a gorgeous fall night here on the Palouse, as we get set for this game here against the Buffaloes. Aesop Winston is the leading receiver, 42 catches for 496 yards and 9 touchdowns for Aesop Winston in 6 games. Aesop has been really consistent and really good. If you want to get your write-in questions in for Coach, please do put them here on the desk, and I think they'll hand some of these out to you if they get around to it. Also, you can tweet M_Chaz or call in 866-268-4825 if you like to, as we now have Coach here on the headset. Coach, how are the guys looking there Thursday Night Football? How are they bouncing around today?
Defense looked really good. Defense bounced around really well. There were some flashes on the offense. I thought it was a defense-dominated day, but some of those young defensive players really bounced around today, and it was good to see.
Did you feel like right from the kick in that first quarter there in Tempe, the defense had great energy? Everybody was focused on the defense with Rock and Darcel and what was going on there. How do you think they played early on and then through the game in Tempe?
I thought we had good energy on defense the whole day, except for we gave up the big explosives. That's what was devastating, was giving up the big explosives, and then, we didn't finish either half. You got to finish the halves better.
It's really tough late, when Daniels had escaped but hadn't really run much. So he didn't give you that look through the game. It's hard to be prepared for something that he hadn't really done, right? Doesn't that make it extra difficult when he's kind of got it as an extra thing in his hip pocket, but he hasn't used it throughout the majority of the 3.5 quarters, basically?
Well, they try to save it to not let him get hit, and we did hit him pretty good. And then, of course, when their back's against the wall, then they turn him loose. It's when their back's against the wall, then they'll let him go to try to win the thing.
So really tight, competitive ball game. I heard your thoughts with Alex in the locker room after the game. I mean, it was back and forth. It was two really good teams getting after it, and sometimes it feels like these margins, and I had alluded to it before you got here. It literally came down to like blades of grass, fractions of white and green for that fumble that wound up hitting, I think it was R.J. Stone's cleat, somebody's cleat, and he happened to be out of bounds on that fumble, and it doesn't go your way sometimes. That's kind of how it is in this league.
Well, yeah, there was some of that for sure, a portion of that I don't care to get into unless I want to separate with $10,000.
No, let's skip that. We don't want to. I don't want to put you in a bad spot there. But the spirit of what I'm saying is, did you feel like how in totality? I know without the result that you wanted, how do you feel like the guys played in totality, offense and defense?
Well, I thought we played real hard. I thought we moved the ball all day on offense. I thought that there were some drives that we could have finished. So I thought we got sloppy at times. Then I thought defensively we played really hard as well, and I thought that down in and down out, we played pretty effectively, but we can't be giving up explosives. It's like it was a thing where one guy gets beat and then somebody else isn't doing their job, and then lightning struck perfectly a couple times, but. It's the same thing you fight all the time. You want to play with all 11, and if you play with 9, they might get you, and they did.
So you said play with 9, and when that happens, when Ayuk has the 86-yarder or the 4th and 2 that results in a touchdown, the 30-plus yard, the run that Benjamin had, is it 2 guys? So is it somebody missed an assignment and then somebody else wasn't there to help? Is that?
Well, the biggest thing, we got beat, and then the safety left the middle of the field. So you got the first guy that you don't expect him to get beat in the first place. And then you got the second guy, that the safety, who's insurance on the thing, and then there was no insurance to be had because he vacated.
Got it. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take some questions. Folks, I know want to write them in who are here in Zeppos. We do need to take a break. You can tweet in a question, as always. You can call in if you want to, 866-268-4825. For the world's most refreshing beer, 21 means 21. Celebrate responsibly with Coors Light, Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. We are live here at Zeppos Packed House, homecoming weekend. It's the Coach Leach Show here at Zeppos.
Rookie call-in line at 866-COOG-TALK. That's 1-866-268-4825. Now, back to the show.
Back here live at Zeppo's. We are live. It's a packed house. Great to be with you. We've got Coach here before the Colorado game. As we get set, we've got some of your questions written in here, some having to do with football, many not having to do with football. That's okay, too. I've got a football one for you here, Coach. And I don't know the answer to this schematically, nor do I pretend to. I ask Alex from time to time. Technical question about defending the RPO. He means the run-pass option. So when a quarterback takes a snap and kind of has that option to either hand it off or throw it, how do you defend it? Do the linebackers need to stay longer? And this is Team Conquer Lime is asking you on Twitter. How do you defend the RPO is essentially what he's asking with a lot of text here. What's the thought?
Well, there's two ways. One is everybody mans it up, and then one way or the other, you try to legally hit the quarterback either when he's got the ball or just as he's releasing it. And then the other is as everybody switches it off, then you try to trade it off. It's not unlike the option because it basically is the option. But you've got to keep the receivers marked, and you also want to have somebody manning the quarterback. You want to be able to tackle him if he's going to run it, and then but also because you can't just leave him be. You can't go over to the guy you might throw it to before he gets rid of the ball, so you have to tend to him, whether it's by keeping track of your gap or just manning him up outright, and then cover the receiver. But it's a shorter receiver, which can make it tricky because in some cases guys are planning to rally to that, and so what it does is you got to play him tighter.
It's a pretty effective way to go about it, right? I know you feel like the air raid in terms of spacing principles. You've reflected how it's counterintuitively a lot like the triple option or the old wishbone. How does the RPO kind of fit in there for you?
Well, we don't do RPOs, but RPOs are good if you're planning to run your quarterback in particular. RPOs are good. If you're planning to run the quarterback, RPOs are good. And what the RPOs are really is it's a compromise and a blending of not necessarily the air raid, but it's a blending of a spread offense with option principles.
Interesting. Team Conquer Line, thank you for that question. Here's a question that I should wait for like 37 minutes to ask you from Mason, who's here in Zeppo's. Do you ever get tired of questions?
Yes and no. I ask a lot of questions, so I'm kind of sensitive to people that do. And then the other thing is I would say that, when you got problems is when they quit asking questions. So, it's I get a kick out of some of these people. You'll see somebody that, gets tired of, signing stuff or doing autographs or interviews. Do you get tired of them? I mean, privately, yes, but when you really have problems is when they quit asking for that stuff. If they quit asking for it, that's when you got problems.
I love that. Love that. Fun question there. And now let's get a little off of football for just a little bit while we're at it. Pat, who's here in Zeppo's, asks you, this has got to be hands down the most common topic. Generally, it's dating advice. In this instance, do you have 5 things you teach your players about love and marriage? Not
that I teach them unless they ask. If they ask, first of all, I think that, what is it, marriage?
It was, let's see, sorry about that. Yep. It was love and marriage is what he's asking.
So that's
here.
all in there. Yeah. So I would say that, first you want to make sure whoever it is your best friend. Start out with make sure they're your best friend. And it goes beyond, just being, say, the hottest or the richest, and because, both of those things you'll get tired of at some point. Mm-hmm. And then, so make sure that they're your best friend. I think that make sure that they're versatile enough, even though their interests may not be the same as yours, that they'll indulge yours, and that hers aren't so boring that you can't indulge at least a significant portion of them. Make sure you can stand the fact that your kids look half like them. Family is a bigger consideration than people think. But so family's a huge consideration. I think you need somebody that overall has a pretty good work ethic, because there's going to be, it's going to be an up and down path, and it's going to be an up and down path, and you're going to need somebody that's got the persistence that can work through it. I would say you want somebody that likes to travel, because whether you do or not, that'll open plenty of doors for you and open plenty of just opportunity that becomes fulfilling in ways that are hard to measure. I went to my 40th class reunion, and there were people there, because in Cody all the classes will show up because, it was a small town. And so, including the class 2 years older, Sharon and I had been married the longest. How about that?
Oh, that's cool. Congratulations. Love that. Absolutely. You mentioned travel, and Pat, thank you for your write-in question. Craig is here from Kauai, Hawaii, and I was just there. There you go. And I was just in Kauai before the season started, and he asks, any plans for your next international trip? Kauai is one of the world's most beautiful places. Princeville and the North Shore, the whole deal, incredible. So love that Craig is here from Kauai, here in Pullman. Any plans for international travel coming up for you?
Yeah, I'll think of something.
I recommend Kauai, by the way.
Oh, Kauai's outstanding. Yeah. Kauai's my favorite island, too. I mean, my favorite island's Kauai. Mm-hmm. The three best spots in Hawaii. Number one, Kauai.
Yep.
The rest of my family thinks Maui, but second is Kauai. I think Kauai and second is Maui. And then now I will say this: the North Shore of Hawaii. If you don't spend a lot of time in Waikiki, but you go to the North Shore and you just sort of drop out up there on the North Shore by Haleiwa and. That's outstanding.
Have you done Kona? Have you seen the volcanoes?
Yeah, Kona's really, Kona's really physically impressive to look at. On that island, I like Hilo.
Yeah.
I'm more of a Hilo guy.
I loved Hilo, the big banyan trees, and I actually saw lava going into the ocean. It was active.
Well,
it was really cool.
Hilo, which is the wet side, I like the wet side better, and it's far more old school. But, you got plants from Middle Earth and stuff laying around all over there.
Yeah.
And then it's the Big Island is physically stunning, but it's pretty resort driven. It's not as kind of cottagey, simple, cool downtown where, people live and they just sort of dropped out there. It's very resort driven. So, and if you like resorts, the resorts there are great. I mean, the worst resort I ever saw on the Big Island was outstanding. But I would prefer the laid-backness of Kauai and Maui and the North Shore a little more.
Really beautiful. So, hey to Craig and all those from Hawaii here. It's awesome to have you. We'll stick with the theme here. I'm sifting through some tweets I just got. Hey, Coach, from Mary. Mary wants to know, if you had to be an emergency substitute teacher for a day in a kindergarten class, how do you think you'd do? Would it be well-behaved or organized chaos, or maybe those aren't mutually exclusive?
Well, first of all, I've been the emergency substitute at all different classes.
Really?
Yeah, in L.A. after I quit, after law school. I was a substitute teacher, and I did it in L.A.
We need to hear from a student who had Mr. Leach as their teacher for a substitute.
Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I got a bunch of stories on this. I had a great time being a substitute teacher, and I did it in San Luis Obispo, and I did it in all over that area. I did it in Palm Desert and Indio, that area too. And the thing is, in California, they even back then, they'd pay you $80 to $100 a day. So, you could live on being a substitute teacher,
Sure.
which I did.
Yeah.
And then I'd ride my bike to all the schools in L.A., so that was an adventure.
Yeah, how'd that go? On the roads?
Yeah, you just get off to the side, and the traffic's not going ridiculously fast between lights,
So you
so
gotta
much.
get away with
yeah, but it only takes them one time to whack you.
Yeah.
And then but I got in great shape biking to these schools. I had a studio apartment, bike hanging from the ceiling of the apartment, and so I'd get the call in the morning. I'd saddle up and ride my bike to whatever school I was supposed to go to, and so now the schools in LA are wild. I mean,
Yeah.
because they move people all over the city, and so LA's always had busing, and so you'd hear some fascinating stories from people that in South Central, and all that gang stuff was going hard, and occasionally, you'd have the guy that you knew was going to be a problem student, and you'd say, hey, why don't you come up here and sit by me? He goes, what'd I do? I didn't do anything. I go, nah, I know you didn't do anything. I go, let's have a talk. and I'd just ask him all about downtown, South Central L.A., and I'd say, so are you in a gang? He'd go, no, but one time, and then he'd say, and he'd get to talking, and he'd say, well, one time me and my friends, no, I not me, not me, but my friends,
Right, right.
and they'd get into some wild stuff.
Yeah.
And
Did you ever do detention? Did you ever substitute teach detention?
Oh, I did do in-school suspension. And then now, and I was bad at grade school. I was good with high school, and in high school, what you hope for is like the chemistry class or the French class or something, where they're all smart kids and they sit there and I read my book, But then in junior high, you're just a hired gun, I mean, you go in there and those kids lose their mind, and and then I would say the most difficult were the special needs, because I didn't have a certification for that, and pretty soon you got 18 to 20-year-old individuals in wheelchairs and stuff, and you're feeding them and you're changing diapers and stuff. But now grade school, I didn't have the speed to do that, because there's a neutral speed that's necessary. Okay, and I have a low voice, so I could go in there. I'd go in there to elementary school, and I could do the nice mellow voice. All right, kids, all right, let's sit down, and some kids pass the note. Somebody drills their buddy in the head with a spit wad, stuff like that. And if I did the mellow guy, well, all hell's breaking loose. Nobody's in their chair. And then if I said, all right, now, you guys sit at, well, and then in the back, two people start crying or something.
Yeah, nice.
And so,
yeah, it's too much.
And I did not have that neutral speed where I could maintain the room without rattling them, And now those skills did come in handy in junior high. And then, so I eventually, to be honest with you, quit doing elementary school because I felt like I just wasn't very effective. They were either running all over the place or they were scared to death. And then you'd get the teacher. Now I did this a lot too. You'd get the teacher. You come in and there'd be the note from the previous sub they had. This is the worst class that I have ever taught in my entire life. They threatened to kill me 3 times. They would not sit in their seat.
Like a
fight broke out. They swore throughout the entire class. Well, then immediately I'd, of course, read the note to them.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I just read it out loud. I go, here's the previous teacher. I go, first of all, I'm not going anywhere. And then I just read it. I go, I don't expect to be killed. I said, I said, and you can only guess what I might be capable of. So think first before you think about killing me. And then swearing. We're not going to have any swearing in here. If you do, you're going to go to the office. And once in a while, you could tell, just a class was bad news. And then
how about this one? I did detention once because I was substitute teaching detention once, and a kid was in there because he had just lit his homework on fire in the class in front of the teacher.
Well, like shop classes, stuff like that would happen. Well, I got a great shop class story too, but so you do not want to substitute shop class. Just trust me on that. Okay, so
weapons, they have saws.
Well, they start having staple fights, everything else. Okay, but in L.A. they did have a phone sitting right there in case there was a problem, and it was a regular phone. And there'd be the grade book there, and it had the parents' phone numbers. And then you do the whole lecture. Listen, we're trying to concentrate on English in this class, and I need you to keep your voice down, and you need to listen. Oh well, my parents don't care about English. I can do whatever I want. I go, well, what if you flunk? What are you going to do? Sell bingo? It doesn't matter. They don't care if I get an F. And then if things got too out of hand, I'd get them. I'd stand them right there. I'd get that phone. And I'd dial up their mom or dad, whoever I decided would come down heaviest. And then they'd say
in the class.
Oh yeah, they'd stand there. And then I'd say, whole class is watching. I'd say, hello, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. I go, listen, I'm at such and such a junior high school, and we're trying to teach this class. And then your son's in here. Now, he says you don't care about English and that it doesn't matter what he gets in this class. However, there's several other people that do care about English, and I happen to have minored in English, and I think it's pretty important. Well, then they start talking, they don't, well, no, I didn't raise him like that. No, he does care about English, and then I'd list. He ran around the classroom. He started swearing. Almost got in a fight with somebody in the back. We can't have class with your son in here. Here, you talk to him. And I just hand that kid the phone.
Oh,
and I'd hand that kid the phone, and it was awesome. I mean, the kid, and then pretty soon the lip quiver would start, Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Oh, no, not that. No, don't take my bike. And so I'd go like that, and I'd go, all right, anybody else? Anybody else we got any problems with? And then,
that's awesome.
Sometimes I would get the, like some guy you knew was kind of a thuggish guy, that was going to be bad news. You say, hey, listen. I need to have an hour in this class, and we need peace and quiet, and we need order in this class, and you look to me like you're the toughest kid in this class. I go, and so I need you to help me keep order in this class.
He kind of flip it.
Yeah, I'm the toughest kid in this class. That's right. I go, well, do you think you can keep this class under control and make sure everybody's – I go, they can talk. They can talk. I hope they do their assignment. But if I don't, they get a horrible job. I mean, I don't care. and then, but can you make sure they stay in their seats? No marking on stuff, because that was a big deal in L.A. Black markers, and they were banned because people would write gang stuff with it, and they would get everybody stirred up. And then. I'd go, just to test him, I'd go, wait a second. No, you're not the toughest. That guy can whip you. I go, I know he can whip you. You're not the toughest one. He goes, no, he goes, let's see. I go, all right. I go, you got it. And then sometimes those guys would literally enforce the thing. No, you get in your seat.
They do it for you.
Well, some skateboarder guy wants to get wild in there or something. No, you sit down. I told you to sit down.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I would get guys in the class to help me out. And then
smart.
But it was, I mean, you'd hear about people's experiences, their life, how they lived, where they were. And some of these high schools, you'd go out there, and you might be at a high school that's going to win the city of Los Angeles, okay? Now, you think about that, a basketball team that's going to win the city of Los Angeles. it's one of the best basketball teams in America.
For sure.
And then and you would go out there at lunch, and some were kids that weren't eligible. The other thing, they had, at least back then, they had a bad system there because they had a tough time keeping them for detention. So bad apples, they would just pass from one school to the next without really straightening anything out. And there were some wild people, tied into gangs, everything else. And you'd go out there at lunch, during lunch hour, and they'd play basketball. And the best basketball players at that school, they weren't even on the basketball team. Right. I mean, you'd go out there and you'd see, some of these games would be played above the rim.
Super high level.
Oh, I mean, they'd be played above the rim. And some of those guys not eligible, not going to play, just got out of reform school type of stuff. I mean, they're out there playing basketball or something like that. And I'm here to tell you, if they had any organization at all, they could hammer the city champion.
Wow.
But, so it was impressive.
Well, hey, Mary, thanks for that question. That's fun. Absolutely. We need to take a break. We'll do it. We're live here at Zeppo's with Coach Leach. Never stops at Northern Quest with 24/7 gaming, over a dozen restaurants and lounges, luxury rooms, and more. Details at northernquest.com. We'll take another quick break. We had to get through that real quick. We'll be back on track after that, live here at Zeppo's with Coach, coming up next.
If a buried natural gas pipeline is leaking outside your
Week's game with the Coors Light Opponent Preview. Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
Back here live at Zeppo's. It is the homecoming week against Colorado. We're live here with Coach Leach. It is that time of the show where we preview the opponent a bit. We'll talk a little bit of ball here. We have a write-in question that we'll get right into, and then we can get specific on the Buffaloes. This is an anonymous one, but somebody here in attendance. Biggest threat posed by Colorado. What do you think? What do you see here that the Buffaloes poses? That the biggest threat the Buffaloes pose, be it offensively or defensively, what they do?
You know, I don't have anything specific other than they just play hard. They're a lot like us that, you know, they're playing hard, and I think they're trying to improve. They're trying to get better, and, you know, they have a couple key players out there, but everybody does. And then, and I think their quarterback is a tough person that does a good job directing the unit there.
Steven Montez, he's actually a redshirt senior. He's got a lot of experience. He's originally from El Paso, Texas. He's big, 6'5", 230. He kind of looks like Sefo Lufa. I don't know if he plays like him, but they look fairly similar. Coug fans remember Sefo from a tough game a few years back. Laviska Shenault's a really good player. Their wide receiver, and Tony Brown. They've got a couple of really good wide receivers.
Yeah, they're really talented guys, and then Shenault, of course, kind of a late developer, and got to college, and he's the type of guy that probably goes back home and they don't recognize him. They remembered him being a smaller guy or something, but then he's explosive too.
Yeah, he's really come on for them over the last couple of seasons. How about defensively? And you do know Mel Tucker, he's their first-year head coach, an NFL DC, and he was Georgia's DC and was in Alabama. Have you crossed paths with Mel Tucker?
I've met him. I can't say I know him real well because he's only been there for a year, but I met him, and seems like a nice fella.
Yeah. He has Colorado 3-3 this year. He played for Barry Alvarez in Barry Alvarez's first recruiting class at Wisconsin. He was a Wisconsin Badger DB, and kind of a fun fact for what it's worth, he lost in Boulder as a player with the Wisconsin Badgers. He lost to the Buffaloes, and now he's their head coach. How about defensively? What do they do on defense that you see?
Kind of base defense. They're real sound. Try to change the looks up. Don't blitz as much as Arizona State. Blitz more than a lot of teams. And then, and just try to keep a shell over everything in the secondary.
What do you make of a team that has a disproportionately or uniquely disproportionate size of tackles from one guy? Their middle linebacker, Nate Landman, has 67 tackles. Do they maybe funnel players to him, or is he just really, really good and goes sideline to sideline? Nate Landman is their leading tackler, their inside linebacker.
Yeah, I'd say it's a combination of both. I think it's a combination of both things.
He has 67 tackles, and their number two tackler has 36. Onu, their safety. So there you go. There's a quick preview there of the Colorado Buffaloes as we are rolling through a bunch of non-football tweets. We just talked a little bit of ball here with Colorado. We'll stick with football for a moment. Des Patman had a catch in Tempe where he really, frankly, bullied the DB. It was hand-to-hand contact. There was no flag called. He shoved him down, made the catch. How do you feel Des has played and used his size this year, 6'4", 225?
I thought last game he did a really good job of it. He had one where he ran right through him, and then three guys converged on him, and he moved the pile forward. So I thought that was impressive. Caught another screen where he got face masked. The guy tried to rip his head off, and he just pulled his head out of the guy's hands and kept running. At least I saw it as a face mask.
It looked like it from the top of I know exactly the player you're talking about. Alex and I looked at each other like, how? I don't want to get you in trouble, but I can say that. You can't. But anyway, I did get a text. We are up against it. We need to take a break. Our final break will come back. Last stretch of the show next. Great to be back here at Zeppo's for homecoming weekend. It's the Cougs against the Buffaloes on Saturday, 4 o'clock kick.
Hey, I'm Kurt. Interact with the show. Give us a call on the bookie call-in line at 866-COOG-TALK, 1-866-268-4825. Live from Zeppo's alongside Cougar head coach Mike Leach. Here's Matt Chazanow.
Back at it live here at Zeppo's. We've got a packed house. It's our final stretch of the show here with Coach Leach. We are live here at Zeppo's. We've got a few minutes left, and we'll have Coach back on headset momentarily here. He is, I believe, signing an autograph or two. This week's matchups brought to you by BECU features your Washington State Cougars versus the Colorado Buffaloes. BECU, more than money, federally insured by NCUA. It's a 4 o'clock kick. It will be Derek Dice and Jedediah Collins on at 2 o'clock. We'll be up in the booth with Jessamine at 3:30 for a 4 o'clock kick. By the way, was at basketball practice today, not to deviate too far. Did you know that Craig Elo, who's a 14-year NBA veteran and will be on the broadcast this year, and I'm so excited to work with Craig, is from Lubbock, Texas, and actually had his jersey put on the wall at Monterey High School. Did you also know that he went to the same high school as Cammie Etheridge, the head basketball coach for the women's team, who also has her jersey on the wall there? The only two jerseys on the wall of the gym of Monterey High School are Cougs, Craig Elo and Cammie Etheridge. How about that? Lubbock,
That's
Texas.
pretty awesome. I'll tell you, they both know two of my great friends, Bobby and Carolyn Magel. And Bobby Magel is the all-time winningest high school baseball coach in America.
Wow.
Yeah.
In Lubbock.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And he's the all-time winningest high school baseball coach
in America.
Wow,
how about that? Very cool. I'm sure they do know. That's awesome. This is our final stretch. We've got just a few minutes left, Coach. So I do want to get a chance to also ask you this coming week. You said the defense looked really, really good today, bouncing around on the field. How has practice? I asked you today. How's it been all week? And how's energy been? How's prep been here for Colorado the entire week, not just today?
I thought we've had a lot of enthusiasm. I thought we've really had good practices, probably as good a practices as we've had all year, and now we just got to transfer that to the field.
Did you get a chance? Have you driven out of town and seen the Go Cougs with Butch burned into the wheat field? Have you seen that in person yet, or has it just seen maybe pictures of it?
Hey, I saw a video of that. I guess it looked to me like they dumped topsoil on there.
It's awesome. Yeah,
they set it up and they dumped, because to me it looked burned too. But
I thought it was burned. Topsoil. It's topsoil. Is it burned? It's compost. It's compost. That's the word.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Awesome.
Compost from, I guess, some livestock that ate a lot of licorice or something. But there's. Yeah, no, it's really impressive. Well, then the artist is like world famous.
Amazing. Yeah, that's what they do. Hey, you can hear the fight song. Thank you, Coach, as always, for the time. Thanks for everybody who came here at Zeppo's. Thanks to Jared Prengruber, who does such a good job. Jerry Kylo gets us on the air every week. Jake Eisenberg's back in the U.S. Bank Network studios. It's a 2 o'clock airtime. Cougs and Buffs homecoming Saturday coming up just a couple of days from now.